Rowley,
Here.
Parkin,
Here.
Hutchison,
Here.
Devine,
Here.
Henderson,
Here.
Booyer.
Here.
Character count statement. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. And just a reminder, because it looks like we're getting a fill up here. City policy is we have to have masks required in this building. Social distancing, so the chairs are set apart accordingly to ensure that. Please do not move the chairs. If they're filled, you can go into the lobby. And we have a live stream going on in a large conference room outside here that you're welcome. You can also do it on your mobile device if you like. And if you're not in here, if we go into public hearings with leases, you're invited to come in and go ahead and speak during that time and then excuse yourself back out. We just want the chairs filled in here and no moving chairs or overlay. Okay? Why don't we just go through real quick the first couple items. If you would introduce the first one, Jan.
Yes, the first item tonight is some Parkland dedication called Biltmore, the preliminary plat, and Christy Bales from our Community Development Department is here to present.
Very good. Thank you. We have one case for Parkland dedication for Biltmore. The aerial is in front of you. The Biltmore development, I'm going to take the mouse and kind of surround it here. It's the about 34 acres where that large pond is. So we're out on Meredith Drive, west of 170th Street. For point of reference, up here towards the right is our water tower and Radiant Elementary. The developer is proposing a 40-lot subdivision shown here. There will be one main access off of Meredith Drive. It'll curve up. You can see the general layout. It will also tie into two other developments, one to the north and one to the west, and I'll show you that back on the other photo. No parkland dedication is required with this, or is proposed with this plat, excuse me. So staff is recommending that we take the 10% dedication equivalent of the cash that was done with the purchase of the property and use that towards future either land or infrastructure. We're mindful of this one, given the topography along Meredith, given the pond and the spillway that comes off of that pond, we didn't think that parkland itself was probably a good fit for this area. There's a tendency that we don't really want detention. We want to leave that to the development and that sort of thing. So the proposal is to have it be the cash equivalent. So you can kind of see how this layout fits in with Mallard Prairie Development to the north and to the Biltmore West property to the west. So staff's recommending approval that the voluntary cash be their contribution in lieu of parkland dedication itself. I'll take any questions you might have.
Is there a park in the area?
There is a park that's going to be planned near Radiant Elementary, but a little bit to the west. This development up here came through rezoning. They're still trying to figure out some land dedication because they've also talked about parkland here along 184th Street. But we want to make sure that it is usable and connects. There's a developer looking at this last 80 acres here. And in preliminary concepts and discussions with them, we said this will need to have land as their project. It so happens that some of the developers on that 80 acres, this development here on Biltmore West and this 34 acres on Biltmore have some of the same people. So there may be some, one group does the land and then the funds used in the next project are used to develop the infrastructure. So that's still evolving and we may come with that, but there's no land until you get to Radiant up there and this land on the west. And then of course the Highland Meadows Park is over here across 170th Street.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Call for a motion.
I'd move approval.
I second.
Henderson,
Aye.
Hutchison,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Parkin,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Booyer.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to back up. We need to do approval. Thank you. Approval of the September 15th minutes. I skipped that, went right to the agenda. Apologize. And those have been mailed out to you. Is there any changes? If not, a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second.
Parkin,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Rowley, Hutchison,
Pass.
Divine,
Yes.
Booyer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Jan.
Yeah, we have the wonderful opportunity tonight. We have 3 Eagle Scouts here with us. We have a number of times each year where the scout troops get in touch with us, and each scout, in preparation for his Eagle Scout, needs to do a project, and we are thrilled when they have the opportunity and they are interested in doing it with our Parks Department. So each 3 of these young gentlemen are one has completed his scout project, and 2 are working on their scout project. So as part of that process, we thought it would be neat for the commission to learn a bit about each one of their projects and what they're doing to benefit our parks. So we have Ryan, Evan, and Aiden, and we've welcomed all 3 of them. So if we just want to do it in that order, if you want to come on up, Ryan, and share some information about your project.
Oh, it's in there? Okay, sorry. Okay. Hi, I'm Ryan Opfer. I want to make a presentation about my project that I did for the city, Parks Department. A little bit about me. I'm 16 years old. I attend Waukee Northwest High School. Some activities I am in, I wrestle. I'm a part of marching band. I joined scouting when I was in 1st grade. The troop I'm a part of is 178, which is located in Waukee, Iowa. Some of my favorite parts about scouting are summer camp and working on merit badges. Why did I choose Urbandale Parks and Recreation? Well, I live in Urbandale, and I live near 2 parks, and I'm right on the trail, so I can see the parks all the time. So when I was doing the citizenship in the community, one of the requirements is I have to interview a person in the local government. I chose Jan to interview, and after the interview was over, she told me if I needed a project to just contact her. Another reason I chose it was there were lots of opportunities, I thought, to work with the parks. And I thought that it could have an immediate community impact because the parks are so widely used throughout the community. So here's my planning process. So I started originally with these pictures as reference, and I based I did 2 types of bat house designs. I did the one on the middle right, the 4-chamber nursery design. I made 3 of those for the parks, and I wanted to get something a little different, so I made a rocket design, which is a little bit bigger, taller, and that's the other one. I also built wings, so that started with the reference, which is the large picture of like the built wings. And I used the bottom right-hand corner to use as the design for it. So here's some of the process of me building the project. On the left picture, I'm working with Kate Newberg. She helped me design the wings. She put me in contact with Kate, Jan did with Kate. You can see some pictures of me painting the wings, as long as me using members of my troop to help me paint and prime the wings. You can also see a picture of me in the top right-hand corner of me staining the insides of the bat houses. All right, so here's the finished designs of the project. The one on the bottom right is them all complete. In the bottom left, sorry. In the bottom right, you can see where the wings are put up. They're put in Hallbrook Park. The rocket box is also located in Hallbrook Park on the trail adjacent to it. You can also see in my garage, I don't know where the other bat houses are, but there are the completed bat houses in my garage. All right, thank you.
Fantastic. Anybody have any comments for that? I really appreciate it. I love the butterfly
Thank you.
a lot. Thank you so much for taking your time and dedicating that for Urbandale.
And these are permanent installations?
What was that?
And these are permanent installations?
Yes, they just, I think we installed the wing probably a month ago.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're in my neighborhood. I wondered where the wings came from. It's really been a fun addition to
Thank
the
you.
park at Hallbrook.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, Evan, if you'd like to come up.
Hello, my name is Evan Redenius. I'm a junior at the Johnson High School. I'm a member of Troop 98 in Urbandale. And I am currently a Life Scout that has earned 36 merit badges. Some of them are welding, rifle shooting, and railroading. Some things I enjoy about my scout troop is the people I'm with, the camping, and the volunteering. Some of the volunteering I've done is Yellow Banks conservation cleanup, Reads Across America, Masonic ceremony flag setting, Salvation Army bell ringing, UCAN cleanup, and Meals from the Heartland. I've also helped with other Eagle Scout projects. I've satisfied all my requirements for Eagle except for the Eagle project, and that's why I'm here today, is to talk about it. I wanted ideas for Days Run Park because it's a park that I personally live by, and I thought it'd be really cool just to see something that I've, built and contributed to my community and my neighborhoods that I live by. When I asked Jan for some ideas, I got 3, which was the Winged Art Project, which I believe he did. Paint pickleball lines on the basketball court, and 3 to 5 disc golf baskets. I decided to go with the disc golf baskets because the pickleball lines I don't believe was exactly enough for an Eagle project. The Winged Art projects, or the 3 to 5 disc golf baskets, I felt would be a little bit more long lasting. I still have to fill out my Eagle Scout project proposal and have it approved by the council. I also have some additional questions to work through with the Parks Department for some logistics. My plan is to complete this next spring or summer.
Awesome.
That's great.
Excellent.
Again, thank you for your dedication to do that for us. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Eagle Scout.
Thank you, Evan. And Aiden.
Hello, my name is Aiden Friedel. I am a scout for Troop 208. I decided to do my Eagle Scout project with the Parks Department, roughly the same as what Ryan did, because I met with Jan for my citizenship in the community merit badge, and I've always been interested in the Parks Department. I've was interested in the Barrett Park development since I've always loved going to the Jester Park Natural Playscape for as long as I can remember since I was younger. A brief overview of my project is I will be building a small cubby system to put little blocks, sticks, and pine cones and other sorts of materials to help the kids play with like all these different items. This is like a picture of me, my sister, and a friend when I was younger at Jester Park. This is roughly what I want it to look like, except it'll be 6 boxes instead of 4. I will also be cutting out blocks to put in this cubby system. They will be various shapes and sizes, and they will be sanded afterwards. The other sensory items, I will be collecting acorns, pine cones, and sticks. I've already started this process, and I will be collecting these in bulk so the Parks Department can restore any missing items later in the park's lifespan. In addition to all of this, I will be wood burning the extra pieces of wood into little wooden coins, so kids can create different words, letters, shapes, and other kinds of stuff. And to show them how to do this, I will also be making a sign that has pictures of all these different creations that you can make. So here's one where they count up to 5 and have counters as rocks, which you can use like sticks and stuff to do. Here's, they built a 5 out of sticks, and here they made an 8 out of sticks. Materials I may need for this project are 3 to 4 wood stumps. When I met with Jan earlier this year, went to the storage facility for all the extra wood and all the other stuff that they don't need, and I saw a ton of wood stumps, so I may need to use those for little workspaces for the building of different wood things. And also, if it would be possible, I would also like some wood materials for building the cubby. That's about it. I look forward to working with all of you, and thank you for your time.
Aiden, I've got a son with special needs, and he'll eat the sensory stuff up, so thanks for doing that. That'd be great. Not literally, of course.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, appreciate the 3 of you coming and doing that and doing it for Urbandale a lot. Congrats on your Eagle Scout projects. Okay, before we go into the next item, just a few general rules that we're going to take each lease separately, and then if we have speakers, we'll have a public hearing for each, be called to open, have people speak, then it'll be called to close. There'll be 5 minutes to the main speaker representative, and then if there's anything new that somebody wants to speak on that same lease, they have a limit of max of 3 minutes. So you can come to the podium. Please state your name and your address before you share your comments. And I don't see anybody in the lobby, so we don't need to worry about that at this point. And then just make sure that it's something new, that it's not repetitive, so we don't have 10 people talking about the same thing. Would really appreciate that. And then we'll call for a stop, and then the commission will discuss it and vote on that. I think that's it for now. Jan?
Yep, so I do want to mention, Scouts, you are very welcome to stay, but you don't have to. And when seats do open up, people leave, you are welcome to come and change seats if you'd like. So certainly wanted to share that. So before you tonight are the review of the leases for city-owned property. We have the Urbandale School District, Urbandale Little League, Urbandale Girls Recreation Association, JUSC, and the Jayhawk Soccer Club leases that are under discussion tonight. All the leases outline the responsibilities of the city and the leasee for program operations and facility maintenance. The lease requires a hold harmless indemnification insurance coverage with the city names as additional insured by each of the leasees. And the school district and all the clubs but one have agreed and signed to the proposed leases, and the Jayhawk Club is not in agreement of the proposed lease and will share their comments with you tonight. And as mentioned, Ms. Devine said we'll be discussing each lease individually and seeking a recommendation and vote from the commission after each lease. And the school district already has reviewed their 2 leases with the city. It's gone through the school board and reviewed, and I don't believe they'd have any representatives here tonight. But those are for the leases for the softball field at Lions Park and also the tennis courts at Lions Park and Walker Johnson. And they are responsible for the maintenance of those, of the softball fields. The tennis courts, the school submits their schedule with the city and we coordinate that schedule. They don't have exclusive use of the courts. Obviously, they're open to the public as well and are programming through the city. So outside of once they approve their schedules, then we schedule the city activities as well. So those 2 leases are, again, have been approved by the school district, so we're recommending approval by the commission.
Okay, so a motion on the schools.
I move we approve the 2 leases.
Got a second?
Second. Hutchison,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Booyer,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Parkin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes. Next.
Yeah, for the four sports associations that we have mentioned, they are 5.5 years into a 10-year lease with the city. And the provisions after 5 years from the lease, the initial term was through the end of this year, so December 31st, 2021. And if the leasees have not been in default any terms and conditions of the lease, they have the option to extend the lease for an additional 5 years. And no club was in default of any of the terms and conditions of the lease. And as I'd mentioned, all but one club has indicated an interest to extend the lease, have agreed to the terms and condition, have signed their proposed lease. And again, the Jayhawk Club will be sharing their comments with you tonight of the reasons for not being in agreement with that. And we're going to start with the Little League lease. And the lease with Little League is for the use of the Little League complex at Northview Parks and the baseball fields. Part of the lease, again, we have outlined all the general obligations for all the leases and the responsible for the field maintenance and infrastructure and the programming and so forth. They did, when they submitted their lease, they did request to discuss with the city about the need for repair or renovation of the parking lot. That's outside the scope of what this lease would be, and we encouraged future discussions with them. So I don't know if we have a representative from the Little League. Again, they have signed their lease and are in agreement with it. So I told them they could attend if they wanted to, but if they're in agreement, have signed if they didn't have to. So it is recommending to approve the lease with the Urbandale Little League and extend an additional 5 years.
Okay.
I'd move approval of the lease with Urbandale Little League.
Second.
Henderson,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Parkin,
Yes.
Hutchison,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Booyer.
And the next lease before you is the Urbandale Girls Recreation Association, and this is for the lease of the softball complex at 104th and Meredith. Again, this would be for the same criteria of the maintenance of the fields and infrastructure. This is proposed for extending an additional 5 years. UJRA did present some questions or inquiries in regards to the city taking over additional maintenance of that facility. We had indicated where consistent with all of our leases is the city will provide all these complexes at no fee, and the maintenance is a requirement of the club. Certainly, the city will continue to work with all the clubs, and if there's minor maintenance and issues like that, we will certainly work with them on those. So we do have a representative of UJRA if you are interested in speaking. Okay, so we are recommending approval of the lease with Urbandale Girls Recreation Association extended additional 5 years.
I move we approve the lease for the Urbandale Softball Association, Girls Softball Association.
I'll second.
Hutchison,
Yes.
Parkin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Booyer,
Yes.
And the next, the final two leases tonight are with the two soccer clubs, the JUSC and Jayhawk Soccer Club. Ideally, we would have loved to have both clubs come to an agreement and have signed leases for compromise on field usage. And we met with the clubs and they are not in agreement with the different proposals. We proposed 3 different options. None were mutually supported by the clubs. JUSC requests to maintain the current lease and field allocations, and Jayhawk has a desire to gain access to fields at the soccer complex. And just I guess a brief overview in regards to both soccer clubs have grown significantly in the last 10 years, and there's a continued need for more field space. Both the clubs have both recreation and select soccer. Both include Urbandale residents and non-residents, and these options help expand the programming and skill development for all the youth. And to meet the growing needs of its constituents, the Urbandale Soccer Club merged with the Johnston Soccer Club in 2017 to become the Johnston Urbandale Soccer Club, referencing the JUSC. Its select team is Sporting Iowa, focuses on more advanced opportunities to meet the needs of select and more advanced players. And Jayhawk has also certainly significantly grown since its inception in 2011, has a select team called Iowa United FC. And since gaining access to the fields at Walker Johnson, they have invested significantly in developing those fields as well, installing irrigation and lights on Martin Field. And each club has, we know that each club has a different operating model and provides opportunities for parents and players to choose what model and organization best fits for them. I did want to note that we're discussing soccer leases and the use of the soccer fields. We consistently get requests from other groups, if it's adult soccer, rugby, cricket, lacrosse, for use of our soccer fields. And we are continuing to, our recommendation is for the 2 soccer clubs to continue have the leases and not enter in leases with any of these other organizations. And obviously the main challenge the city faces for the soccer leases, field allocations, of the city-owns fields. The clubs are aware that any capital improvements are done at the site becomes the property of the city if they no longer use the site or if the leases are voided. And JUSC has developed a soccer complex at Walker Johnson and at the soccer complex for over 30 years, made significant investments on that. And the Jayhawk Soccer Club, again, I had mentioned, has made significant improvements and investments at Walker Johnson. So the Jayhawk Soccer Club, with its growth, is seeking additional field space and is asking for more equal balance of field space between the 2 clubs. And JUSC is concerned that the complex that they continue to have programming needs for and invested in the development of will be given to another club that is not invested in that. And one final note, the Jayhawk Club has asked the city to make a criteria requirement for residency for players, for allocation of fields. And staff is not recommending adding this requirement to the lease. And one of the reasons is we've had, this current lease is for 10 years, and that criteria was not part of that lease at the initial of 10 years. And after it expires in 2026, that is something that we could look at. But also, more importantly, I think, is the city of Urbandale has a successful model in providing recreation programs to all of our patrons, not just for soccer fields, but for all of our rec programs, the senior center. I will say that over 50% of our participants in our rec programs are non-residents, and also the senior center. And that's reciprocating. That's quite common in West Des Moines. They have the same percentage. So it's not based on residency. We're providing services to our residents and non-residents. And also, as we know, we have 6 school districts within Urbandale. So that is a request from the Jayhawk Club, and I'm sure they'll expand on that. That is not a recommendation from staff. And based on those criteria, and that neither of these clubs has been default of the lease. They've been meeting the standards outlined in the leases. They're making their parking lot payments that are a requirement of the lease. They've made investments, improvements in the facilities, and they're providing quality program for our youth. So staff is recommending to extend the lease for additional 5 years under the same terms and conditions.
Thank you. Okay, so is there anybody here to speak on the Johnson Urbandale Soccer Club? Okay, so now I need a motion to open the public hearing.
I move we open the public hearing.
I have a second?
Second.
Good evening. I'm Scott Vanderheart. I'm president of the Johnson Urbandale
One
Soccer.
second. Okay, go ahead.
Hutchison,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Booyer,
Stain.
Devine,
Yes.
Parkin,
Yes.
Rowley.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes, and then we'll have subsequent people do a 3-minute.
I'm Scott Vanderhart. I'm president of the Johnson Urbandale Soccer Club. My address is 4721 76th Street, Urbandale, Iowa. I'm just here to speak on behalf of the Urbandale Club. Obviously, we're interested in continuing our presence in the city of Urbandale. We've started as the Urbandale Soccer Club and have grown and partnered to provide additional programming, more comprehensive programming for our youth in our communities. most recently with our merger with the Johnston Soccer Club. A lot of that was so we can actually provide more developmentally appropriate youth programming. As Jan had mentioned, we've invested considerable amount of not only money but time into the Urbandale complex to develop it. When we received it first back in 1996, it was essentially ag land. It was not the soccer fields you see today. Our club actually spent the money, took out loans, made payments to develop that into the soccer complex you see today. Obviously, with the recent addition of the paved parking lot, which our members are extremely happy about. We've also invested about $78,000 in the last 5 years. The biggest proportion of that was to add additional drainage tile. We've had considerable amount of just drainage problems on the complex. The soil is very clayey, just does not drain well. So we've made that investment. So we hopefully we don't have to close the complex as much after heavy rains. We've also put in a storage shed and that goes along with that to store the equipment that we utilize to maintain the facility. Again, we've been operating in the community since 1975. I know my wife and her siblings played for the club. My kids that are in college played for the club, and I've got a junior at Urbandale High School that continues to play with the club, and we just hope to maintain a strong presence in the community, you know, for future generations. So if my kids come back and live here after they graduate, maybe their kids will play for our club as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else on behalf of the Urbandale Soccer Club, the Johnston Urbandale Soccer Club? Okay, if not, call to close public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Are we still talking about the same lease? We haven't asked for the other club to speak.
No, this is just this lease.
Okay, all right.
Just doing lease by lease.
I'm just making sure I'm,
Yep, that's okay.
So is it about the lease or is it about the representatives from that club?
This is about the Johnston Urbandale Soccer Club lease.
Okay.
You have to speak on their, for that, on that lease?
We'll have an opportunity to speak regarding their lease. Okay.
You could speak about their lease, I guess, yeah. I mean, because this is about that lease only, and then the next one will be for the Jayhawk lease.
Sure, yeah, thank you. My name is Matt Carver. I live at 2619 Northwest 162nd Street in Clive. And I'm here, I'd like to talk about this. And I, by the way, grew up playing in the Urbandale Soccer Club myself in 1980. And I just wanted to clarify some things here, and this does relate to the lease. One, Urbandale Soccer Club received this lease, okay? It's a legal fiction to say that this is still the Urbandale Soccer Club. And I'm an attorney. All right, so Urbandale Soccer Club received the lease. In the lease, it states if there's a change in circumstance that was not considered at the time of the lease, then the lease may be revisited. So the idea that there needs to be a default is inaccurate. The city has authority if there's a change in circumstance that was not considered at the time of the lease to revisit the lease. There has been a number of different changes in circumstance since they entered into the lease.
But Matt, if I can just ask a question to you, hasn't that already been addressed through the city attorney and your discussions with AJ and Jan? I mean, I don't think that's an issue.
Through the city attorney, whose partner of over 30 years was a longtime volunteer with the Urbandale Soccer Club. That's accurate. He's given his opinion, which I would say other attorneys would disagree with related to that.
He represents the city, right?
I have offered, and I'll put it on public record, because they can reference a concern of being worried about getting sued by maybe JUSC would sue the city of Urbandale. Maybe they would. And I offered to indemnify the city of Urbandale if JUSC sued, and I offer it in this public meeting, if JUSC wishes to sue the city of Urbandale because we're trying to get fields for lower income children in our community, I will indemnify the city of Urbandale for any costs should the city lose that court case. It will not lose that court case. I'm 100% confident. I'm 100% confident that a judge would find there was a change in circumstance when the Urbandale soccer, at the time of the lease, there was no consideration of fields in Johnston. The entire Johnston soccer complex is now part of JUSC. That was not considered at the time of the lease. That is now theirs. There has not been significant growth by the Urbandale Soccer Club. They had growth from merger. We could have growth from merger, but that wouldn't be appropriate because we don't have a safe place for children to go if we merge with another club. So I just want to point this out, that it's important as we consider this lease for other members of the commission. Okay, you read a statement about character counts and fairness. I just ask that the city of Urbandale start being fair to the children in the Jayhawk Soccer Club. Have some objective criteria, revisit the lease, and ensure that fields in Urbandale are open to all children and not just children whose families can afford to spend more money on a more expensive soccer club. There were 8 games scheduled at the Urbandale Soccer Complex last spring for age groups 11U and above until we brought it to the city's attention. 8 games for 11U and above. That was it for the entire complex. We had over 40 games on Martin Field alone.
Matt, would you finish up, please?
Yep, thank you very much.
Can we ask questions?
Yes, please.
Okay. Tell me, you mentioned cost and safety. Can you expand on that?
Sure, yeah. Every season, and we've spent our volunteer, John Carr, we're an all-volunteer club. Every season, John Carr spends as much time, if not more time, than any volunteer in the Des Moines area on that one soccer field. If you're looking at the amount of time someone spends on one field, trying to keep that field up. We spend thousands of dollars every season watering that field, seeding it, fertilizing it, doing all those things, but about halfway to 2/3 the way into the season, large portions of that field end up being dirt. And it's dirt because of overuse. It's a grass field. Meanwhile, I don't know how many of you have visited the Urbandale Soccer Complex. Go up there, walk the complex. Look how plush it is. Look at all the green space that doesn't even have a field laid down on it. Meanwhile, we have two different age groups on this field, 2 age groups that overlap. Players get confused because the lines are set up for 2 different age groups on the same field.
Did you get your question answered, Jason?
But I'm just getting to this because of the amount of overuse, the field gets to become dangerous for players.
Oh,
There's
that's
more
okay.
mud,
That's the
there's more
safety
mud.
issue.
Excuse me?
That's the safety issue you were talking about?
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you have more mud on a soccer field, then when you're cutting, there's more likely to be ankle injuries, there's more likely to be knee injuries due to mud and sliding on the mud. When it turns into dirt, if it's not moist enough, then you're more likely to have children who are getting scraped up based off of falling on the ground. If they were to hit their head on the ground, there's more likely to be a head injury. And we have plenty of fields in Urbandale. They do not have a need for these fields.
Matt, have you, your club approached, you talked about them going to Johnston. Has your club approached Johnston, West Des Moines, or even the Johnston-Urbandale field to talk about leasing or sharing some fields? Have you approached anybody on it?
They've had talks, and our president, or one of our co-presidents, has had talks with them about that. Our point is that, or my point, at least this is my position, I'm not speaking for the club right now, this is my position. There are plenty, again, these are empty fields, they're not being used. We're leasing fields right now on the new West Des Moines Recplex for our oldest teams. We're traveling to West Des Moines when fields are sitting empty in Urbandale. We're spending money renting fields from West Des Moines at the Recplex when fields are sitting empty in Urbandale.
Okay.
Have you had opportunity to expand working through the city of Urbandale? Has there been options for you to use additional land that the city's made available?
Why would we expand when there's enough space right here? Why would we expand when there's enough space right here? They didn't develop the Urbandale Soccer Complex. JUSC did not develop the Urbandale Soccer Complex. Volunteers with the Urbandale Soccer Club, volunteers with the Urbandale Soccer Club developed it. We have coaches, parent coaches in our club that were either not born or barely born when the money was really put into that complex. Do they get it indefinitely?
I understand, but
do they get it indefinitely?
it's a 10-year lease.
Do they get it indefinitely? And there was no criteria when they had that 10-year lease. There was no criteria. It was to the Urbandale Soccer Club. They did not have the fields in Johnston.
Right, but
Now they have the
but-
fields in Johnston.
But the city.
That's a change in
The city has
circumstance.
decided that that's still an appropriate lease, and it still falls within the whatever the lease has outlined. You disagree, but the city has agreed that the lease is still appropriate.
And there are many cities in the South in our country in the 1950s and 60s that had a difference of opinion of a lot of other citizens too. And that happened as well. And people would bring their grievances and they would bring facts and they would talk about justice and they wouldn't get any.
Mr. Carver?
And that's what's happening over and over here. We're bringing facts and we're just asking.
But you've
for-
also.
We're
you
just
also-
asking for fairness.
You've also had some opportunities to use other pieces of land to expand, right? And you've decided not to take that up, right?
What are you talking about? Where have we not decided to
Finish this,
expand?
please.
Has
Where
the
have we
city,
tied, you mean
has the
when
city,
they offered for land at 164th Street or something in Urbandale? When they offered that? Sir, I have a player on my team that came to practice and he was breathing heavy
Okay.
because he had just run, we weren't aware of it. We said, why are you breathing heavy? Well, coach, I just ran here 1.5 miles to get to practice. Are we to expect now he's going to go another 5 miles? And we, of course, offered, we said, we'll pick you up at
Matt,
any time. I'm
Mr.
answering his
Carver?
question, ma'am.
Yeah, but I think what we're doing, we're lost the focus. We were talking about this, the Johnston Urbandale Soccer Club, and now I think we've heard that you're dissatisfied with the lease that the city's continuing, right? And we've heard that you're saying that the fields that you have, which would be the next lease, that you're dissatisfied with that. And I'm just kind of summarizing to make sure that we're all on the understanding of what you've been here to say, because we've given you amplitude time of it, is that you have not sought out other leases or fields or opportunities to expand fields for yourself. The whole point is you feel you need more fields from the current ones, the lease that they have, because you're claiming they're not using them. And they are the leasee and have been taking care of the fields for many years and build it up. And there's no reason, I don't know of a reason that they have faulted on the lease. So I think the city has agreed to continue it. Do you have anything in another 30 seconds that you want to say? Otherwise, we're going to close the public hearing unless there's somebody else that wants to speak. And then look at this lease.
Yeah, and again, I just finally say on that point is they're not, to your comment about they're not using the space, you're accurate. I'm saying they're not, when you have 8 games scheduled over an entire complex for a season for 11U and above, they were not using the space. And so that is one of my points that I think that you just shared.
Yeah, I don't know that, Matt. I want to clarify. I do
That's-
not know that. I was restating your statement.
Yeah, well, we can show you schedules from the Iowa Soccer Association that show that.
Okay.
And we have sent that to the city of Urbandale. We previously had sent that.
Okay,
So in
thank
this,
you.
and again, I would claim they did not develop Urbandale. I'm not going to, and so if you're going to go off the idea that in the 1990s, the Urbandale Soccer Club developed it, we'll never get the fields. Our children will never get them. And again, we had a lot of members that grew up, I coached in the Urbandale Soccer, I was on the board of the Urbandale Soccer Club. Okay, we just want low-income children in our community to be able to use public land.
Okay, we're not going to get into operations and program models. What we are going to do is talk about fair leases as far as the lease and the quality of the people that are taking care of the lease, and they're doing a good job as far as I know. I know you're dissatisfied with it, that's obvious, but is there anything else? Otherwise, I'd like to go ahead and see if there's anybody else in the audience that would like to speak. And then we'll get this one finished, and then we'll go on to the Jayhawk one, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Any other people that would like to speak on the Johnston Urbandale Soccer Club lease? Any more questions for the commission
I guess I have a question.
or comments? Okay, thank you.
I do have a question. So I see that Johnston and Urbandale merged in 2017, and that was after the original execution of this lease in 2016. So at the time that the clubs merged, how many additional field spaces were added overall to the club versus yeah, and my kids haven't played youth soccer in years, but I'm not new to soccer. So I've been to a lot of these complexes when my kids were younger and they used to play VSA. I just, when the clubs merged, did the population of the kids stay the same and with the field space that was available? Okay.
Please.
When the clubs emerged, obviously, we've been partnering with Johnston since 2007 to provide select programming. So our select program has always had access to those Johnston fields. I mean, and because of the merger, we are able and have flexibility. But we do have a sizable Johnston presence within our club as well. And our Urbandale numbers didn't decline because of the merger. I'm not here to argue the fact that they don't need additional space. I'm just wanting to maintain the presence that we've had in the community. I feel it's important. I mean, we do our best to serve all Urbandale residents, Johnston residents, and other communities that come to our club. Our fees are such that I think they're reasonable. We do offer financial assistance, so we don't turn players away as suggested. So we make every accommodation to make sure kids can play. Even our select programs, we put over $70,000, usually $70,000 to $80,000 per year in financial assistance, serving 70, 80 kids per year just in our select program alone. And that's about close to 10% of our registered players. So we do make every effort to serve kids to make sure they can play regardless of whatever level they want to compete at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering my question.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about the other lease now. So main spokesperson, Mr. Carver. Matt, is that going to be you for the Urbandale, the Jayhawk one? Oh, okay.
Mr. Williams is the president.
Hi, okay. Name and address, please.
Yeah, Brett Williams, 24831 Calico Creek, Adel, Iowa. And I said, Brett Williams, the co-president of the Jayhawk Soccer Club. So I think you had an opportunity to get some information prior. If you didn't, please let me know and I can kind of expound on some of this. But I think some of this has already been talked to, and we come down to kind of four main things. One is a need, which I think we've seen the pictures. We've addressed that from a safety perspective, the amount of kids that we're putting on there. Right now, just for a little perspective on this, every kid 10 and under, so 10U and under, they do not practice on these fields. And the reason for that is just we're at capacity. So those kids have to go to parks or other green space, whatever the coaches can come up with. For our older kids, as Matt alluded to, some of them practice at parks. We practice at the high school football field, which a lot of times is 8 or 9 o'clock at night, which parents are thrilled about, but that's the only time that's available. And then we also do rent other places from other complexes within the area just to offload some of that load on the fields, because otherwise we just don't have the capacity to do so. And so all that being said, the fields still are in the condition that they are today. So I think we can all agree that there's a need there. And I think it's been pointed out too that if you compare that to the Urbandale soccer complex, it's night and day between what the fields look like there. And so I think our main contention is not that there's not an adequate number of fields, but are we using these fields efficiently? Why spend more money building soccer fields that may not be needed? The second point, and probably one that we should have led with, and Jandy can acknowledge that in the beginning, was objective criteria. And I think that's our biggest hang up right now, is that 5 years ago when the allocations were determined, we don't know what the criteria was. It seemed just arbitrary. 2 different locations, one club take one location, their club take another location. And so what we wanted to see this time around, and per an ombudsman report who agreed with it, is some sort of objective criteria. One being number of residents in each club. Another look could be the totality of the number of fields available to each club, not just in Urbandale, but across the metro. Because right now, the only access that we have to fields right now are Martin Field and then the upper field. And obviously, we've looked for the Recplex, which requires us to travel farther. As you talked out a little bit there was opportunities maybe for land to develop, but it's, out in Waukee, which is really away from our base. A lot of kids struggle to make it to practice right now where it's at. You multiply that times 5, and it just exasperates the problem. And we'll go back to it. I hate to repeat over and over again, but again, I think there's adequate space. We just need to use it more efficiently. The third one, which I think is a big one, is that if we look at the potential of gaining additional field space, I am sure that it's not going to negatively impact any children in the community. And that's something we've taken a very good look at. I mean, that's our objective, that's our mission, is if the other club were to not use 2 of those fields, that would not negatively impact those children. They have plenty of other options. We've talked about the field in Urbandale, the one that's coming on in Grimes, the one in West Des Moines, and then also the Urbandale complex. But it would make a world of difference for the children in our club to have access to just those 2 additional fields. And then the last one, I just want to say that we also had a recommendation that started off with 3 fields. I understand there wasn't an option, but I think at least an option of having 2 fields or additional fields to help meet our needs would be greatly appreciated. Again, from the need perspective, I think the pictures speak for themselves. The lack of objective criteria, without something there to explain why the allocation exists as it does today. And then obviously the big one, it not having a negative impact on children in the community. So I think that's why that's our preference, is to have those 2 additional fields for all those reasons that we've stated. And happy to answer any questions you all may have. Thank you.
Any questions for him, comments? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask a question of staff, or are we waiting for additional speakers from the public?
Yeah.
So in reviewing these leases and meeting with both clubs, was there just the lease as is, or was there a discussion of sharing or compromise? I'm confused what led to where we are now.
We provided 3 options. One was to keep the leases as they were. 2 was to provide the opportunity, I think a couple years, I think 2019, where JUSC provided the opportunity to, where the Jayhawk Club could rent field space over there at the complex. And the third is that the Jayhawk Club would pay a certain amount for gaining access to those 2 fields, and then they would have the ongoing maintenance. The second option wasn't really something that either club was interested in, and the Jayhawk Club was supportive of the third option, and JUSC was supportive of the first option. So there's no coming together of the minds. And certainly over the last 10 years, the main goal and continues with the city is for the clubs to work together for the efficiencies and for use of the fields. But that hasn't occurred to date, so that's where our recommendation is at this point.
You want to speak? Go on, name and address, please.
My name is Edin Suvich. My address is 45.
You go to the mic so I can hear you better. There you go. Thank you.
My address is 4509 68th Street, Urbandale, Iowa. I just wanted to mention, I've been playing with Jayhawk Soccer Club for 11 years now, since I was 4. I just remember, just putting on my cleats and then going to the field every day, wanting to practice, wanting to get better. And every day we go there, you would see, my coach mentioned, John Carr. He'd be down there every day, and he'd be trying to make the field better. He'd be working on maintenance. Absolutely everything you would think he could work on, he would be working on it. And I play for the select team. We play to get better, so we're going to play fast. We're going to play hard. A lot of the time, you'll be falling on the ground and scraping your elbows just because too many players play. I come to practice every Thursday. I see a bunch of kids playing on the field. Just no matter, you can put the best the guy out there, the field's still gonna get wrecked and players are still gonna have problems playing on the field. I personally have rolled my ankle on the field, and you would think it's not as bad until you actually go out and you try and you play hard. Something as simple as passing a ball is difficult with a field like that because you have to use more strength to pass the ball rather than doing it on a regular nice field. I just think using the other field, getting the other field would be kind of nice, just because it would be nice to practice somewhere else, somewhere where, you know, we'd have more options to use more fields, to have more players, because like mentioned earlier, we have a lot of age groups that practice on the same field, same amount of time, same everything. It's just constant overuse of the field. And to have the opportunity to get more fields, to continue to play longer on better fields possibly. I mean, I'm 15 years old. 3 years from now, I'm graduating high school. So if I can get, or if we can get for my last couple of years to play on these fields, and for other kids in the future to play on these nice fields, it'd be huge. Because growing up playing for this club, you know, it was fun. It still is fun. I enjoy playing. But having to use the same field and having to go to practice and just see I have to play on the field that's wrecked, even though I know John Carr is breaking his back to make the field better for us, it's still getting destroyed. Just the opportunity to use better fields would be huge. It'd be really nice. It'd just be greatly appreciated from me, from a lot of other players, coaches, my own parents, just everyone around the community. It'd be a big help just to get these fields. So.
Thank you for speaking.
Thank you. Anybody else on either lease or comments? 3 minutes, name, address.
My name is Keith Smith, 8300 Parkview Drive in Urbandale. I've been an Urbandale resident for 17 years. My wife and I moved here in 2004. My son, Evan, plays for Iowa United at the 13U select team, which I'm the head coach of. I've been coaching in the Jayhawk club since he was 4 years old. And I've seen it come and go over the years with, you know, the field space and all this stuff that keeps coming up. Right now, my son is supposed to be playing in a tournament this weekend. However, he has a walking boot on his ankle because he has a stress fracture in his ankle. What people don't understand is when this, you know, while it's a safety concern, when the fields get wet, the kids slip, they pull things, they roll their ankles, whatever. But when that dirt field is wet, and then you have a season like we've had this year where it's been extremely dry, then those dirt areas turn to concrete. And I don't know if anybody has ever strapped on a set of soccer shoes, but they are not built to support ankles. They're not built to support feet. They're built to grip and kick the ball. That's it. And when you put them on, essentially playing on concrete, that's what it feels like out there. When I put my soccer shoes on, and I'm a 44-year-old man, when I get home from practice, I'm in pain. I can't imagine what these kids are going through when they're playing on a field like in this condition for 2.5 hours or an hour straight. You know, the field conditions, I think, is the root of the issue right now. We don't have a problem as a club, and I hope I'm not speaking out of context here, as a club playing on 2 fields, but we simply can't maintain them. We can't maintain them with the amount of kids that we have and the level of play that we have. We just cannot maintain that, you know, a quality field with 2 fields. I mean, how many kids do we have in the club? 500 overall? 500 kids that play on 2 fields. You know, every time I practice 3 times a week because we're select, you know, these parents are paying, they're paying not crazy money, but they're paying good money for these kids to play select soccer, you know, and they deserve a return on their investment and their kids getting better and not coming home with stress fractures. I've had 5 kids on my 15 kid roster that have had ankle injuries this year. And none of them happened at away games, I promise you. They all happened on Martin Field. You know, I don't think that it's out of line for us to ask for city-owned
You know, if we're allocating city-owned property, why is it that our club only gets 2? And that's it, and there's never any discussion to revisit it. You know, we can go through the politics and all that stuff, and who is with what club and all that stuff. I don't care about that stuff. I care about the kids. Every time I practice 3 times a week, plus tournaments and games, I go and travel around the city of Urbandale, and I pick up 5 refugee kids every night and take them to practice and take them home. Those refugee kids all live in the Bristol apartments, live in the apartments across on 86 and Meredith, and they live down in the apartments and stuff behind the Blue Shark Ale House or whatever that place is over there. So a centrally located field is for my team, is at the utmost importance. I don't want to drive all the way around there, pick all these kids up, and go to 156th or 160th on a new developed land. That makes no sense. It makes 0 sense to me. So I just ask that we would think about more criteria than, well, and while we thank JUSC or Urbandale Soccer Club or whoever developed that land over there at the Urbandale Soccer Complex, fantastic, that's great for our city. But there's no reason that other clubs cannot use that with no reason why. Again, back to the objective criteria. There's no reason, nobody has given anyone a reason why. Why do they get those fields? Why do we not? Where's the criteria? Give us a criteria and then we'll work towards that. And I think it's obscene to think that the Jayhawk Soccer Club or Iowa United would not invest in those fields to maintain them if we were given that opportunity. Yes, they've invested a lot of money in the development and the maintenance of those things, those fields, but we have never given that opportunity to make that investment because it's never been an option. So my question is why? Safety of the kids, in my opinion, as a coach, as a parent, should be at the highest level. And it's unsafe for them to play on these fields the way they are.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Jason.
In terms of transportation, and I used to live in the townhomes right by JUSC's fields, is that a problem going that distance? I mean,
Absolutely not. You know, I mean, you know, when you talk, the Urbandale Soccer Complex, in my opinion, is a centrally located complex. You know, when you start talking about branches and fingers of Urbandale that are beyond Waukee, beyond Grimes because of the landlock and the way that the city is being done, you know, in my opinion, if that is in a Waukee or Grimes school district, to me, that's not the heart of Urbandale. The heart of Urbandale is right here at 86 and Douglas, right here. And, you know, that's when you talk about cities that grow, you know, the lower income people tend to be at the heart of the income of the city, you know? And so traveling to 100th Street, in my opinion, is 100% local. You know, I travel that far just picking up the kids that I pick up right now and bring them to Walker Johnston. And then I take them home because those kids, they just want to play soccer. When I drop off one of my players at the Bristol Apartments, actually 2 of them at the Bristol Apartments, every time there are 7 other kids at various ages coming up and begging me to take them to soccer practice. I can't bring them to my select practice because they're not, you know, I mean, they're not of age, but they beg. You know, one of our other coaches, Heather Reed, she ended up putting together a strictly volunteer-run free soccer clinic every other Saturday or every Saturday, and she's allocated a space behind Urban Heights, you know, on the middle school field. She works something out with the school, but those kids just want to play soccer. They can't afford it. Their parents, I have 3 players that their parents have never been to one soccer game because it's a different culture. It's just not how they operate. But those kids love the game. And let's be honest, if they're involved in this and I'm picking them up 3 times a week and taking them to tournaments, it keeps them out of trouble. You know, it really does. Those kids are going to get lost in the mix. And that's what this is about. It's not about who's making more money. It's not about who's taking care of fields and who's not. This is about the kids and a safe place for them to play.
So is it more a concern of convenience as far as where the fields would be located?
I'm sorry, I can't hardly hear you.
It sounds like convenience is a big concern then, rather than safety.
I don't know that it's necessarily convenient. You know, in my personal situation, convenience is important, naturally. You know, I'm a volunteer select coach. I don't get paid for anything that I do. I buy water for these kids every week. I give way more than I'll ever get out, and my son will ever get out of it, I promise you. But it has nothing to do with what I'm getting out of it. It has to do with the kids playing soccer and playing it safely and enjoying it. They're not going to enjoy it when they walk, you know, my kid's not enjoying this weekend when he's walking around in a boot because he can't play, because he has a stress fracture from playing on a concrete field. You know, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's not necessarily about convenience. Anyone else?
No, thank you.
I want to thank you for coaching and volunteering. It's a kind of a thankless job, and I bet you there's a lot more volunteers and coaches in the audience tonight, and thank you for investing in our children.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
Hey, good evening. My name is Jeremy Bethards, 4200 126th Street in Urbandale. I'm losing my voice, I apologize. You know, Keith really mentioned a lot of what I wanted to say, but there's a little bit more that I wanted to add to it. So I've been coaching with Jayhawks for at least 10 years, since my youngest child was 4. This club has provided so many opportunities. My child is autistic, and, you know, soccer in general, sports in general, make a huge difference. I don't think either club here is going to argue that soccer is a huge, huge impact. The kids in our community really do need more support. They really do need more help. And I think there's a space for both, right? I think there's space for both places to exist, for both models to exist. You know, I think all we're asking for is just more space, just a field or two to you know, keep our kids safe, to have more kids enjoy. You know, I was going to mention Keith drives kids around. We have multiple other coaches that pick up kids in our community and drive vans to practice. And I mean, how many more kids could we help? I think both clubs would agree that the more kids we get in the sport, you know, the better. And so if that means, we're volunteer-led, you know, we talked about John Carr and all the work he does. You know, if that means that I have to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and help with more fields, if that means, you know, that I have to continue to drive more kids around, and heck, I already coached 3 teams. If that means I have to coach 6, I'll make it happen, because these kids really just need a little bit more space. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Does anybody want to add anything new or different? I think we've heard pretty inclusive of everything, but anything new? Okay, then I ask for a call to close the public hearing. Motion?
I move we close the public hearing portion.
Second, please.
Second.
Hutchison,
Yes.
Perkin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Booyer.
So is there any other discussion amongst us, or any kind of comments or any questions of Jan? I will say that I sat here in 2016 and had, again, the city had mediation between the 2 teams or the 2 clubs, excuse me, trying to get them to work it out. And I wish that would have happened, and it was with this years between then and now. I was hoping that something would come to fruition, that we would be here tonight trying to decide. I think we have people that have a lease that are doing a good job on their lease. And when you start a business and it grows, sorry.
Your time's up.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on the last minute to have for his, but. And it grows, then you try and strategically plan for what you're going to be doing, and for yourself, instead of, you know, trying to figure out how somebody else should bail you out, I guess. I don't know how else to say it. I agree, soccer, my kids are in their 30s and they played soccer on the soccer fields. I live close to the soccer fields. I know they're being used. I know they're working on them. I know these are being used because I drive by on Douglas. I love to see kids. I worked with social services for many years and still today with UCAN. So there's a lot of kids in need, no matter what economical level they are. And I don't think that that's got to do with our lease situation. Our lease is you have ownership and you need to take care of it. So I'm sad to say that we're in this situation. I don't like having people dissatisfied. My kids had injuries. They played on the other field. They played all these other fields too. So whether it's right or wrong on what they're saying, I'm not here to judge them. I am here to look at a business aspect of it and the leases and who's good leasees. And again, would encourage clubs to work together, whether it's the families, the kids, or however, to share the fields or go make partnerships if that's what's necessary to get more opportunity for the families that you're serving. But I don't feel it's necessary if I had a good business and I have an empty office, even if it's empty or used part-time, that my leasee or leaser can come and say, sorry, we're taking it from you to give to somebody else. That's the strategic or the operational part of me that I don't quite understand, can't get with, that something could be taken through from one good leasee and handed off to another one. I wish the two would combine and have a sublease, some kind of agreement. I would just celebrate the day that that would happen. The clubs would get along, helping a wonderful group of kids, communities, Urbandale and everywhere else. It's not just Urbandale. I know both clubs have several different community kids involved, and that's fantastic. It does keep them off the street. So that's about all at this moment that I can say. I don't know if anybody else wants to comment. That's where I'm at.
I had a couple of questions of staff, if I can. Because I've been in Urbandale since, goodness sakes, I feel like it's like dog years, right? Since 2015. And so, it was very unique to me to learn how Urbandale does leases for recreational programs. Have we had other clubs providing similar services that have come into conflict in recent years regarding the space issue or access to fields?
No, the soccer is the only sport that had a club separate and the city acknowledged two clubs, so have allocated fields for two. The others, they only have one organization.
Okay. I was just curious if there was any history or precedence of other conflicting, providing similar programming, but I know that the programming is different in certain aspects of these two clubs. I was just talking in general.
I will mention there are, certainly not everybody in any sport. I used to referee for 15 years. Not everybody agrees with coaches and organizations and so forth. The city does not get into the bylaws, the organization, the rules, how much they charge their kids. That is not something the city gets into, the operational part of each one of the organizations.
So there hasn't been other leases that have had a request for additional access from another club in the past. This is the first time. This is where I'm struggling. You used an example of a business. This is not a business. This is the city and this is public land. This is not a privately owned office space that somebody says, I'm going to come and squat on and you have to give it to me. This is publicly owned land, and that's where I'm fundamentally struggling with this. And I respect the investment that's been made over time, but I'm really struggling with, and this is an access issue. And yeah, there's a 10-year lease, but some of these kids are going to graduate high school and never have access. And I'm just kind of doing this a little bit here going, how can we not work together for all kids involved in soccer? And I don't know if it's the role of this commission or the role of the city to say, hey, let's work together. The pictures were incredibly telling of evidence of overuse of this field. And I'm not questioning that people haven't done their best to maintain it. And my kids did play youth soccer, so I can't even imagine them playing on beaten down dirt or mud all the time. That would be horrible. So to me, there just has to be a way that with publicly owned land and people who are wanting to serve youth athletes from all economic levels in this community, that we can't sort this out. And I don't know if it's the role of this commission, but I just am really struggling with this, of endorsing that we have a group of people that don't have access to public land. And I'm not an attorney. I don't have a legal opinion. I'm a mom, right? My kids still play youth sports, and I'm just really at odds with this. I mean, to me, the merging of the clubs seemed to be a fundamental change. If that city attorney, did the city attorney say that was not a fundamental change? Okay.
Well, and Sarah, I'm not saying that it's a business. I'm trying to give an example.
Oh, no, it was a good example,
You know,
but where I'm,
I agree, but you know what, again, I would have loved, I'm glad that there's no one coming up with girls softball separate league or little league, a boys little league. I mean, I'm so happy that everybody's joining this.
it can happen.
It could happen.
And
It can happen in any of those.
Absolutely.
organizations, Right, so whatever you set precedent, obviously.
Yeah.
As you move, right?
yeah,
The
and
other
that's,
thing that's, that Jen mentioned earlier, you have, a lot of people want access, cricket, adult soccer, there's a lot of people who need access to public lands in Urbandale that it's difficult to come up with. We just probably don't have enough, and we need to see if we can find some more space, but that's not always easy either. But there's a lot of outdoor space that's green space that's lacking for a community our size, for those purposes,
yeah, and my son plays lacrosse, and same thing, struggling with practice issue, and that's one of the fastest growing sports in the Midwest right now, so I'm sure you've been hit up, Jan. I'm just fundamentally struggling with this because it's another 5-year extension, and I think in 5 years, it's gonna be even worse, and we still haven't figured it out.
I agree. It needs to be figured out, and we've talked about how we got to this point. I thought Mr. Carver brought up a good point when he said, does JUSC have this property in perpetuity? And I don't know if it's us that needs to fix it, or the council, but this needs to get resolved so this isn't happening every 5 years. This situation, we never should have gotten to this point, in my opinion.
And the city did, in the last 5 or 6 years, had 2 different mediators meet with both clubs. Obviously, the ultimate goal of the city is not to have this divisiveness with the soccer community. And no unifying compromise did come together. We are looking at this is a 10-year lease, and after 5.5 years, it's not an obligation by the city to allocate any field space to anyone. It could be lacrosse, come on in. We certainly, these are 4 incredible organizations that have done amazing things, and the number of volunteer hours has impacted our community immensely. But ultimately, where our recommendation is a 10-year lease that could be, and we are taking input. Obviously, we could have said 5 more years and not even have this discussion. So obviously, we are taking that input. And I guess as a reminder, as you are advisory to the council will have the final decision and other opportunities for the clubs to share their input as well.
So to be clear for everybody here, if Jayhawk Club doesn't sign the lease after this meeting, then it goes to council, right? This is the progression of this.
Yeah, the JUSC has signed it. The Jayhawk does not have to sign it. Ultimately, at the council meeting would be the decision of the council of this is what the city will provide, and they'll have to make a decision if they want to use the fields at that time or not. So the process is, after tonight's recommendation, because it is over 3-year obligation, we need a public hearing. So November 2nd council meeting, the council will set a public hearing date, and November 16th, at Tuesday, will be when this is discussed. So for any of you here, certainly put those dates on your calendar for the council discussion. So November 2nd, it won't be discussed, it'll just, the public hearing will be set.
And in your discussion, Jen, and maybe a couple of people here can come, was there any dialogue about the second option? Was there any movement on either side or any willingness on either side to discuss that?
I think one club was strongly option one, and one was okay with option three. There was an investment of $40,000 to $50,000 for those fields. But in regards to the leasing, that still is an option, even if the leases are signed, as we recommended, and as part of our recommendation is as USC grew, they looked for other opportunities. That's what we certainly encourage the Jayhawk Club to do as well.
Well, that was my point, Dan, and you actually said it originally when I'm thinking, why is this on? Because when we did this last time, it was 10 years. And it's not 10 years yet, but, again, I was hoping that we wouldn't have this discussion and dissension between the two clubs, that they would come together and the decision was better for both of them.
And for the kids, right?
And that's what it's about, is the kids.
That's why we're
That's
here.
what I'm hearing. I know Mr. Carver's, saying no, but it is. That's what their thing is. It's about the kids.
I'm not going to put up with that. I'm not going to put up with you making a comment that I'm not here for the kids, man.
No, you were sitting there shaking your head at me, that's all.
I'm shaking my head to some of these comments because
Okay, we're done with comments. I apologize for that.
you should not have made a direct comment to a member.
Okay, I apologize for that, Mr. Carver. I'm sorry. Okay, any other comments, questions of Jan? Okay. Yes. Yeah, the public hearing's done, sorry. There will be opportunity at city council once we pass on the recommendation. Okay. All right, I call for a motion.
I move that we follow the recommendation of the Jan and the mayor to approve the lease for the JUSC soccer group.
Have a second?
I'll second.
I'm asking for clarification if this was already, did you reference the mayor or just Jan and staff?
Jan and staff, sorry.
Okay,
I might have said the mayor. But
that's okay.
didn't mean to.
We all have masks
It's
on.
not there yet.
We all have masks on, so I just wanted to make sure I heard correctly.
Okay, we have a first and second to accept the recommendation from the staff.
Hutchison,
Yes.
Parkin,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Henderson,
No.
Booyer.
Abstaining.
Okay, now we have the Jayhawk lease. We need a motion and second on that, part of our recommendation.
But do we do anything that they haven't signed it? Do we, how's that? How do we?
Yeah.
We can make recommendation, but it would go to the city to continue to work on that with them.
Okay, I'll move that we, what do I say, approve the lease as, approve the lease as,
Recommendation.
as the recommendation comes from the Department of Recreation.
I'll second.
Hutchison,
Yes.
Rowley,
Yes.
Parkin,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Henderson,
No.
Booyer.
Abstaining.
Okay. This will go to council. Jan, you want to say those dates again?
Yeah, the public hearing will be set on November 2nd, and the discussion will happen on November 16th, on a Tuesday.
Okay. Now, the next thing on the agenda would be citizens' comments on anything that was not on the agenda, anything new that has not been addressed. Number 8, director's report. Jan, anything new and exciting going on in the fields?
Just to mention that this time of year, so we're going to be closing parks, and I also want to introduce, some of you haven't met, but Scott Hoke is our new Assistant Director of Parks, so maybe you can share a little bit about timing for the closing of parks?
Yeah, thank you, Jen. We'll actually start next week on shutting down the restrooms. Parks are still open and available to use as long as weather's available. Well, even if the weather's not great, people still use them. But we will start shutting down restrooms in order to prevent any pipes freezing. Normally, we shut our shelters down for reservations on the 15th, and they become first come, first serve after that. We normally do the same thing with restrooms. However, it's been really, really nice, so we extended it one more week. And then we'll also be looking probably right after the 1st of November, taking down tennis nets and some of those things as far as for protecting those, some of the shade canopies and that kind of stuff. So yes, and very happy to be here back in Urbandale. Thank you.
Is Barrett Park still expected to wrap up?
What was that?
Is Barrett Park still expected to wrap up this fall?
Yeah, it is with a number of projects within the city of the lack of contractors and supply and so forth. We are seeing progress. So if you drive by, you'll see a climbing structure that's been installed. So we hope in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see the shelter and restroom being put up, and they have some footings. So we hope to see a lot of activity in the next month or so.
Well, Scott, I'd say welcome aboard. You were here before, and it was fantastic, so great to see you back in the saddle again.
Yes, happy to be back. Thank you very much.
Okay.
There's still cleanup tomorrow?
Yes, thank you for the reminder. Dunlop Park and Arboretum fall cleanup starts at 5 o'clock to 6:30 or until the sun sets. And it's kind of funny of the one year that the weather has been nice, so we may not have as many leaves as we used to, but we have about 30 people planning to come, and we'd love to see you as well.
Anything else from anybody else? Great to have you all here. You were missing Andy, but that's it. Stay safe, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for cheering.
We officially adjourn.
Shut your mics off.
Yeah. Betty, you officially adjourned?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to officially adjourn the Urbandale Park and Rec Commission. Anybody move?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.